Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise. And we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer, dear listener. Welcome to yet another episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. As always, we do our very best to bring impactful, powerful and life-changing content each and every time. Obviously, our subject of interest is entrepreneurship. Today, we're going to talk about a very interesting subject of surviving the first 1,000 days in business. And the person we have to do that is Tinashe Mupedziwa. I hope I'm saying that name correctly. Welcome to our studio, Mr. Tinashe.
Thank you so much for having me.
Would you like to take this time to introduce yourself to the viewer in terms of sharing your background professionally and otherwise?
All right, thank you. My name is Tinashe Mupedziwa, and in brief, I'm a son, I'm a father, I'm a husband, and an uncle. But professionally, I'm what they call an entrepreneur. My wife and I run 3 businesses. One is Incuped, which is a business center that supports or incubates small businesses. The second one is Lenvista Management Consultants, which focuses on training small businesses. Although we still help even bigger organizations, but our major focus is small businesses. We are passionate about helping small businesses because they need help. The last company that we run is Lenvista Industrial Technologies.
Lenvista?
Lenvista Industrial Technologies. This one is focused on industrial technology. You know, we're trying to bring in good, innovative industrial technologies. In brief, that's who Tinashe.
What's your professional training?
My first degree was in accounting, Bachelor of Business Administration and Accounting. I also have a Master of Development Practice. Master of Development Practice is a multidisciplinary course, and we were doing a lot of things, multidisciplinary. That's what it was.
We're going to talk about surviving and then hopefully thriving during the first 1,000 days. Why 1,000 days? Why is it so important? I've heard the founder of Flowtech,
Yes.
I forget his name, but he's been a visitor in one of our entrepreneurship meetings and at the founders dinner, and he emphasized on this 1,000 days. I'm interested to know your take on this, to find out whether it's similar to his.
Well, you know, I've learned from people like him, you know, that the first 1,000 days.
Naik, I think is his name.
Mr. Make, yes.
Naik.
Naik.
N-A-I-K, I think.
All right. Yes, I've learned from entrepreneurs like him that the first 1,000 days are critical. I know, you know, my father-in-law works at Lukara mine in Karowe. And he was saying to me that the founders, these young people that started the mine, were young people, and they gave themselves a target of breaking even in 1,000 days. And they did so. You know, they got loans, they invested. After 1,000 days, they paid off everything. You know, and they're a very profitable operation, as you may know. I've also heard Vusi Tembekwayo, you know, the South African entrepreneur and coach, venture capitalist.
Very prominent on social media.
He is. He was also talking about the first 1,000 days. In fact, he says 999 days. And he's saying, if you can't make it within those, you're going to have it difficult. You know. And I also look at Incuped, the other project.
It works out to roughly 3 years or something like that.
Yes.
Or just under 3 years.
Just under 3 years. Then, you know, the project that I started with my wife and a few investors, Incuped, you know, it also took us about 1,000 days to break even and to actually see a change. You know, before that, you know, we were just huffing and puffing and, you know, we went, you know, just trying to find our way. But after 1,000 days, we could see a clearer picture. We could now see that we've saved a little bit of money. Oh, this month is different from that month. Before that, we were trying to swim out of an ocean. Yes. So I believe that, 1,000 days is perhaps a magical number. But after 1,000 days, you will see whether you're winning or you're losing.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's dive deeper and get into this. You say for you to be able to survive, you need to know your why. What is the connection between knowing your why and surviving 1,000 days?
Well, your why is your purpose. And Steve Jobs says, rational people are going to quit because business is so difficult. So you need to know your why. I think of, I read David Mahang's book, and he talks about
The Magic of Perseverance.
The Magic of Perseverance.
One of my favorite books, yes.
Yes. And he says, he describes how difficult it was. Investors would come in, the next day they're saying no. But he says he did not give up because he knew his why. And his why was, the rate at which the government is servicing plots is way less than the rate at which the population is growing. I need to go and help my people because if they're going to grow and they become successful, they'll need somewhere to stay. And he says, if the government is not going to do that, I have to do it. And that was his why.
So he had a compelling vision.
He had a compelling vision. He had a compelling reason. Yes.
Would it be fair to ask you, what was your compelling reason when you started these 3 businesses?
Well, to be honest, for the other 2, in fact, for the management consulting business, because I had been a consultant training for others, my why was I now want to own my own. And in retrospect, that wasn't a good reason. But for the office, for Incupad, the incubation center for small businesses, I just wanted to help others because I had suffered, I had struggled in my own coming up. And I thought, I want others to not go through what I went through. So I'm going to make it easier for them. And that was my reason.
And how do you actually help these other businesses? How do you help these young upcoming upstarts survive the 1,000 days?
Well, they are in a place where there's like-minded people going through the same struggle. So, as we network, we are encouraging each other, but we also provide training for them and, try to reduce their cost of starting. That's, some of the ways in which we help them.
You subsidize their rent?
Yes, we subsidize their rent.
How does that work?
Well, we have created a model in which we've talked to our landlord, we've tried to get it at a very low cost. And so we also make sure that they get it at a low price, so to speak, yes.
All right. The second point I want us to talk about is important to be humble.
Yes.
And you actually say ego has the effect of ruining
Yeah.
and destroying opportunities. So explain that. I mean, humbleness in what sense? In the classic African sense, or where you don't venture because you're too humble or afraid or you're meek, or humble in the biblical sense where the Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth, or in a combination of those two where you have the concept of both two being internalized in you. I want you to go deeper on that as well.
Well, for me, humility is the queen of all virtues. In fact, one author has said, humility is the queen of all virtues, because without it...
That's such a tweetable comment. I want you to repeat it. Humility is?
The queen of all virtues.
Wow.
And he says, because without it, you can't have any other virtue. So humility will help you to access the strengths of other people. And humility will get your ego out of the way. And for me, I learned humility just after I got married, and I wanted to invest in something. And my wife says, no, you can't do that. And I say to my wife, no, this is the one that's going to take us to the promised land. And my wife says, no, you can't do that with this one. And,
without giving an explanation.
I had tried to explain, and, because my wife is very intelligent, she had already seen, after reading my business plan, that it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it then. So I then said, we argued, then we said, let's split the little reserves that we have. She's going to keep the cushion for the family, and I'm going to invest the rest. And so I took that money, I went and invested. That thing went belly up.
Just like she predicted.
Just like she predicted. And I went back.
Of course, women have the advantage of having the female intuition thing.
Indeed. You know, so she beat me on that one. The project went belly up. I came back home and I told her that it has not worked. And she hugged me, and I could, sense the smile.
Yeah.
That she was smiling, But I then became open to the ideas of others.
I told you so, smile.
Yes. Yes. So from that moment, I became open to the ideas of others. I no more want my ideas to be the best in the room. Let's discuss them and let's go with the best ideas. So entrepreneurs, getting back to entrepreneurs, I would say to them, sometimes you come with your business plan and you want to survive, and sometimes the customers are telling you, no, it's not going to work. Or listen to them and, really listen to the substance of what they're trying to tell you. And if there is no substance, then move forward. But if there is substance, take it. Don't just go and drown yourself. Just because, you are the man, just because I'm the one with the business plan. Be humble. Get your ego out of the way.
Well, this is wonderful. Can you give a similar example of where, by being humble, positive results came out?
Yeah, indeed. So my wife, later on, we've started another business now, Incuped. And my wife says, so I've developed the business model. My wife has written the business plan. So we're in this together. And we've now fundraised and everything. And then so we get to the place where we want to start the business. And my wife says to me, we have to change the business. She's been talking to customers and she's listening. Talking to customers and she's listening. And the customers are saying to her, we want something private. And I'm saying,
Private as in?
They wanted private offices, but not expensive. My idea was, let's just put desks and chairs. Entrepreneurs will come and work, because I'm like that. I just want to get
open plan.
Open plan, yes. But they wanted something private. And so my wife then says no, they want private. And she, and now I was a bit more humble. So, and she's coming with a lot of force, and I'm saying, but I did this business model. It's supposed to work this way. But I was humble. Then I let my wife have her way. And within 3 weeks or so, the place was full of small business people. So just by being humble, I accessed,
wonderful opportunities.
Yes, her wisdom and good opportunities.
Part of the message is that we should listen to our wives more, eh?
Indeed.
Now, let's talk about the importance of focus, concentration.
Yes.
I've read somewhere that successful entrepreneurs, especially billionaires, pride themselves in the word no.
Yes.
Whereas mediocre or maybe less successful say yes to a lot of things.
Yes.
I do not know what your experience is and how you can develop the point further.
Yes. So this is what Steve Jobs says, He says, we are proud of the projects that we do and equally proud of the projects that we say no to. He says, we receive a lot of business plans and proposals every day, but we say no to them.
To most of them.
Yes, and recently Tim Cook was also saying the same thing, because they're saying, look, congratulations, your company is now worth 2 trillion. And he says, we are only worth 2 trillion now because we said no to $1 billion ideas. Can you imagine? Yes. So we need to say no.
So it's similarly, for you to get to $1 billion, you have to say no to a lot of $1 million ideas.
Yes. So the problem is, when we are up and coming and we're running after the $1 million one, and then another guy says, here's another one worth $1 million. You now want to go to this one. And then another one says $1 million. You now want to. So that's where the problem is. We need to focus. Franklin Covey on focus says, the sun, in a normal condition, will only provide heat. But when you focus the sun's rays through a microscope, you're going to start a fire. Yes. So as an entrepreneur, focus your rays and start a fire. That's what you need to do.
Okay, suppose an entrepreneur comes to you with a business plan to start, let's say, a car dealership.
Yes.
How would you advise them to focus in such a business?
I would say to them, there's something called ideas management. Ideas management. And what we're saying by ideas management is we're saying, weigh the idea. Weigh the idea. Number one, do you love it? Say, give it a score out of 5. Do you love it? Number 2, is it going to make money for you? Give that a score out of 4 out of 5. How easy is it for you to start? Give yourself, and do you have the skills to start? And then after you've done that, you then answer the question, am I ready to go for it? So usually the billionaires will say, I'll only go for an idea where I score 90% and above. You see.
Where the prospects of failure are very limited.
Yes.
They want low-hanging fruit.
They want low-hanging fruit. And they go for it and grasp it and squeeze it for all it's worth. So I would say to that person, really first measure whether you are capable of doing it and doing it well, and then go forward.
All right, let's deal with another aspect of which is management. You say entrepreneurs need to learn management.
Yes.
Learning through what? Self-education, or through attending courses, or through going back to school? What is your thinking on this learning aspect?
Yes. Well, I believe in self-education. I also believe in reading books. Even if you want to go to school, go to school. But the most important thing is learn. Now, I read this, the importance of learning management. I heard from a gentleman called Strive Masiwa, the founder of Mascom. And he was writing in an article and he said, if you want to be successful in business, learn management. And then he says, you've not gotten the point. I'm saying, if you want to be successful in business, learn management. He repeated that phrase maybe 6 times. And that caught my attention. And his point was, outside of management skills, there is no business. There is no business. Business works when you know management skills. And primarily, I'll just mention 4 skills that you need to go and learn. Number 1 is that you need to be able to build trust within the people you're going to work with. Build trust. Number 2 is you need to be able to clarify purpose. Know where the goalpost is. Know where you're going to score. Your team must be clear about that. A score is there. You need to be clear about that. Number 3 is you need to learn systems building. Aligning systems. Some businesses will have systems that are going to be drawing people back. You say, do this, I want you to sign 5 forms for you to do this thing. Bureaucracy. That is going to hurt people. You want a swift team. Imagine if we want a river to flow fast and you're busy putting obstacles. So we want a system to be aligned to the goal. And number 4 is you need to learn how to unleash talent. Wow. And you unleash talent by many things, but also by praising and hiring based off people's strengths.
And praising, you just don't mean verbally, also rewarding.
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
Let me also understand your reaction to the statement that I've had young entrepreneurs, when I talk of learning and education, they say, look, Steve Jobs didn't have a degree, Bill Gates doesn't have a degree, a lot of top billionaires don't have degrees, and they seem to think that they don't need formal education all that much. What's your reaction to that in the context of learning management?
I would say to them, Steve Jobs was educated. He might have not had a degree, but he was educated. Bill Gates is educated. He reads a book.
He goes on reading vacations.
And I think he spends how many hours a day reading?
Well, it's Warren Buffett. He says he spends six hours a day reading.
You see that? So they might not have a certificate from an organization, but they are educated people. So don't. I would encourage you, get educated. Even if you don't have the formal one, get educated on the things that you want to do and know them. That's my advice and my response to people who make such an assessment.
Thank you very much. Mind your burn rate. First of all, what is a burn rate?
Well, in entrepreneurship, people make the mistake that entrepreneurs start off with balance sheets. Entrepreneurs for the first 1,000 days, in my view, are running after survival. So you're trying to make sure that your cash is going to last for as long as possible. You want to be able to pay salaries and pay your rentals and do what you need to do this month and next month. So you need to mind your burn rate. So we're saying don't burn cash. Don't be a wash. And I love the story that Mark Rudolph, the founder of Netflix, states, about when one time he was visiting Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is the founder of Amazon, the richest man in the world right now.
Yes.
And he says, Jeff Bezos wanted to buy Netflix around, in the 90s. And so he calls them to his office and says, guys, I want you to come and see me. So they go there to see Jeff Bezos. And Jeff, they
Before
get...
Netflix was Netflix.
Yes, before
And
Netflix
it was still
Netflix.
struggling, yeah.
It was still struggling, And so they get there and they see some funny warehouse. They get in there, all the desks were made out of recycled doors, and wood, and the office looked ugly. And they said, you are Jeff Bezos. He was already worth $1 billion by that time.
By that time, yes.
Yes. And they said, you are Jeff Bezos. You can't be using desks like this. And he says, we don't spend a penny on things that don't benefit our customers. That's Jeff Bezos. And they had $1 million website. They had a $1 million logistics system, but the desks in the office were made out of recycled materials. And that should be the attitude of the entrepreneur. You are not trying to be seen, you are not trying to do this, you're trying to serve your customers.
The problem is the entrepreneurs sometimes listen to their employees who always want fancy stuff to work around.
Yeah.
How do you deal with an entrepreneur who's faced with employees who are constantly asking for fancy, wonderful, those shiny objects?
I would say to the entrepreneur, learn management. Number one, again to those 4 points.
Yeah.
Build trust. Really make sure that they trust you and you trust them. They know that your heart is in the right place. Number two, clarify purpose. Guys, for the next 1,000 days, we're not going to go fancy. We are about making sure that we build a sustainable institution. Number three, align system. So right now we're just going to, what we don't need a table, or from at home or from Woolworths. We just need somewhere to work on. So let's work with that. And guys, let's work with that. We unleash talent. Some would refuse, and they may have to go. That's okay.
Yeah.
But those that get into the vision, go with those ones.
Wonderful. That's great advice. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Stress. It's unavoidable that we have stress. You say we must manage stress proactively.
Indeed.
First, define stress, because I've heard people saying there's good stress and bad stress.
Indeed. There's good stress and bad stress. Indeed. There's eustress. Eustress is the stress that comes when you're doing positive things. Stress that builds you up.
Yes.
Good stress. And then there's de-stress, stress that pulls you down, that weighs you down, and it ultimately becomes a negative emotion if it's not dealt with properly and proactively. I've come up with the theme, with the thinking that whenever I'm stressed, let's say something goes wrong in the morning, a customer who had promised us $500,000 says, you're going home with nothing.
Yeah.
I've promised myself that if that thing happens in the morning, I must end the day having done something that I'll be proud of at the end of the day.
Even if it's much smaller than the $500,000.
Even if it's much smaller, even if it doesn't bring in revenue, I must ask myself, what 2 things am I going to do today that when I go home, I'll be proud of myself?
2 things that will make up for that disappointment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you say manage it proactively,
Yes.
break that down.
Yes. So I'm saying don't, number one, already accept the fact that the landscape of business is stressful. Number two, Murphy's Law works well in business. Everything that must go wrong will go wrong. That's just how Murphy defines it. So because of that, already know that you're in that landscape, you're in that terrain. And therefore, when something stressful happens, accept it and fight back. When you get a punch, punch back. Sometimes twice as hard. Have the attitude of the American President Donald Trump. Punch back twice as hard.
Well, the problem is that he'll contradict the next point we're about to talk about, which is being honest.
Yes.
And so maybe that example falls off when we deal with the next point.
Indeed.
At least according to the press.
Yes.
And according to what we read in the newspapers.
Indeed.
You say honesty is another important point.
Yes.
Why do you attach a huge premium to honesty?
I've learned over the years that business is a game for honest people. In fact, Jack Welch says, business is a game. I love Jack Welch, may his soul rest in peace. But he would say, it's a game for honest people. And so you want to be honest. And I've learned honesty from a friend of mine called Mbusi. This gentleman would work in very difficult environments. He's an auditor, chartered accountant, and he was in a very rough environment. And, one of the bosses was abusive. he would call people racist names and denigrating them. And Mbusi said to him, "No, you can't talk to people like that. That's not good." And they ended up firing him for that. And he suffered because of his honest decision. Later on, he got a better job because of that. He's got many instances in his life where his honesty has come back to reward him further. One time also in business, one client called us for training. And they said to us, give us a quotation for this. And we said, no, that's going to cost 22,000 pula. And then the person says to us, no, add an extra 15,000 and make it 37,000. And when we've paid you the 37, you're going to take the 15,000 and come and give it to me, somewhere there. And
in other words, pure corruption.
That was corruption. And I remember it was a difficult decision. I ended up saying, my wife, thank God she was an honest person. She says, no, we're not going to do that. Yes, we want the money. And yes, we need the money, but we're not going to do that. We rejected that offer. And, we still survived. We are here where we are today. And then later on, we met another client who said, we'll give you this business. Our budget for the year is this amount. That was a very big client. Our budget for training for this whole year is this amount. We'll give you everything. But you'll pay me separately 50%. And we refused that. And that at that time my wife was pregnant. It was a difficult time. And we ended up just saying, we're not going to do this. And we walked away.
Because sooner or later you got caught. If you're not caught physically, your conscience will ravage you.
Indeed.
You won't be able to sleep at night.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So we ended up just going with it. And later on, after about 5 months, we were called for a contract that was going to give us double what that client was going to give us for a whole year. We got double for 2 months. And
this one was straight and clean.
Straight and clean. And that really reinforced my belief. I'm a Christian, and I believe Psalms 33 verse 4 says, God does his things in truth. So I say no to corruption, no corruption. Be honest, deal in honesty.
Yeah, the whole notion of surrounding yourself with good people and you connect it to reading.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that for us? Why is that important? And how do you actually do it in practice?
Well, in practice, I would say, number one, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant said, when he was around 23, 24, he decided that he wanted to be now the best, one of the greats in basketball.
And his soul rest in peace.
May his soul rest in peace indeed. And he withdrew from a lot of people and now was just a family man and he would focus on his game. And I think that entrepreneurs must focus on their game. If you're going to be one of the greats, if you're going to contribute meaningfully, withdraw yourself from people who are not going where you're going, and focus on your game and start playing your game. I know for a fact that I receive a lot of help from my own wife, who challenges me all the time, from our business managers, the 3 of them for the 3 enterprises, who challenge us and who work with us well. Those teams are very important. You need to have a good team to support you. They will celebrate your strengths and they will compliment for your weaknesses. I know
Don't you think part of the problem is that people want to please their family members as well as their friends? There's a tendency to be a people pleaser, but what I'm hearing from you is that don't be a people pleaser.
Indeed, we must not become people pleasers. In fact, one author says, if you want to please people, go and sell ice cream, or start an NGO, do something like that. But if you want to become an entrepreneur who's going to develop sustainable institutions that will last, for the test of time, you can't be a people pleaser. Focus on your game and surround yourself with the right team. Yes.
What do you think about the statement that if you are the wisest person or the smartest person in the room, you are in trouble?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Because psychologists have confirmed that we have something called a scotoma.
Scotoma.
Yes, scotoma. Scotoma is something, it's blind spots. It's mental blind spots. So the idea that if you know everything, you know more than the people in the room, is itself false. Because the perspectives in the room are different. As you're looking the way you're looking, I'm looking this side. I can see more of what's happening this side than you can. And as you're looking this side, I'm looking this side. You can see more of what's happening this side than I can.
Yes.
So there is no one who is more intelligent than others in the room. There are different perspectives. And we must respect those perspectives and celebrate those perspectives. So if I want to have a clearer vision of this room, I need you to be my friend. And if you want to have a clearer vision of this room, you need me to be your friend. And say to me, Amen, tell me what's happening this side, and I'll give you a clear picture.
Okay. That's a very good one. I'm very happy with that. The other point that we covered while we were prepping for the show was failing forward. I think this is one of John Maxwell's favorite saying.
Indeed.
Fail forward.
Yes.
It seems to me you are embracing the idea of failure, but you're saying fail forward. Let's deal with that one.
Yes. Entrepreneurship is falling 6 times and rising back the 7th time. If you fall 10 times, the 11th time. I love what they say about Thomas Edison and the light bulb. That, he failed 1,000 times. But in that failure, he discovered 999 ways that wouldn't work. That's the attitude we must have. Carol Dweck and, talks about the growth mindset. That's what we need to do. Whenever we fail, we must look at that as a puzzle. And then we must work on really...
Are you able to give examples from your own life here in Botswana?
Well, I would say the experience I gave of my wife helping me.
Yeah, no, that's a very good one. Yeah.
Yes, that's one of the times when, yes, I had failed, but I still woke up the next day. And why did I wake up the next day? Because I was in love with entrepreneurship. So yes, I failed. I woke up the next day. Let's try it again. Let's do something different. And I've seen that business is just the game of failing and rising back up.
What do you say to those who fail 3-4 times and they say, this cannot work? I've had people say to me that property business or real estate is a disaster. I tried this, and then the 4th attempt, they give up.
I would say, open yourself up to learning. Learn from those that are doing it right. Tony Robbins says, success leaves clue. So if you are failing, maybe copy. In class what we used to do?
Yeah.
Well, I never did that, and I know you never did that.
No, I never did that.
Yes. But, the other students would come with a drive, and they would come and copy, and then they would get the same results. So I would say to anyone who's saying, I've tried this.
I think we should make it clear, nobody should copy at school.
Yes.
But everywhere else, by all means, copy.
Yes. Yes. Everywhere else, by all means, copy. And those that you're copying have probably copied from somewhere else. But if they're innovative, let them be the market leaders. They'll harvest the fruits of being the market leaders. So, and also I would say to them, look at Abraham Lincoln. His rate of failure was quite difficult.
Can you just tell those who might not know what happened there?
Yes, I have the dates here, and they say in 1816, his family was forced out of the house. In 1818, his mother died. 1831, he failed at business. In 1832, he ran for state and lost. 1833, he was bankrupt and in debt. And they say that it took him 17 years to pay back that debt.
Yeah.
He was lucky that he was owing his friend. 1834, he ran for state and won. 1835, his fiancée died. 1836, he had a nervous breakdown and stayed in hospital for 6 months. 1840, he wanted to be the elector of his state. He was defeated. 1843, ran for Congress, lost. 1846, ran for Congress and now won. 1848, ran for another position, but he lost it. 1849, sought a job as lands officer. He was rejected. 1854, ran for Senate, lost. 1856, sought to be vice president of his party, he lost. 1858, ran for Senate, lost. 1860, he was elected the president of the United States of America. So failure does not define you. It defines what you've overcome. And I look at this man, why did he wait?
He's arguably the most successful U.S. president ever.
Indeed.
At least he's in the top 5.
He's in the top 5, I believe so. But one of the things about him, why was he waking up? He was in love. He was genuinely in love.
With what?
with serving people. Because you find out that all the offices, most of the offices that he was running for
Public
were
service.
public service, yes. He was in love, he wanted to make a difference. And so if you genuinely are in love, you will do it. You won't quit. I remember when we failed, in one of the investments that we tried, it was in line with training. We still woke up the next day and said, let's go back and do it again. Because we are in love with what we're doing.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, as a man of faith, you'll have a lot to say about the importance of having faith. I would have a lot to say, but it's your day.
Yes.
Why is faith important? And are you referring here to the Hebrews 11 type of faith? The substance of things not seen, and the evidence of things hoped for.
Yes. Yes. I'm referring to that faith. And I'm saying, you don't know the future. Arguably right now, the best entrepreneurship professor in the world, to me, is Steve Blank. He's listed a lot of organizations on the stock exchange. He's a billionaire, but he's now teaching at UC Berkeley. And he says, businesses.
Steve who?
Steve Blank.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He says, businesses are faith-based institutions. Literally, you start building these properties, hoping that someone is going to come and rent. They are based on faith. So we need, in my view, to have faith that is going to work out. Dangote, the richest man in Africa,
Yes.
says, if you think there's a need,
Or shall we say the richest black man in the world?
the richest black man in the world, I think that's a better one.
Yeah.
He says, build and they will come. That to me is quite arrogant. But that is faith in action. It's faith which works. He's saying, I'll set up a cement plant and hope that these guys are going to come and buy. I'll set up a rice factory.
Because he knows that people will want houses, people want to develop.
Yes.
So
yes.
sooner or later they'll come.
Yes. So I would say, to entrepreneurs, have faith. And it's not that faith that just says, I receive. Because entrepreneurship at the end of the day is about service. It's about helping people. So go out there and start genuinely seeking to help people, to make people's lives better. Indeed. So I would say to them, have faith.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, can you give examples of entrepreneurs, even in your own life, where faith really made the difference?
Yes. I would say, when we started incubating with my wife again, we used to, we were excited about the idea. The business plan is there. The business model is there. We don't have money. We can't finance it because we had one other business that was taking care of the household needs. So we didn't want to really, ruin it by taking all the money from there. So we didn't have money. And then one time, we were so passionate about the idea. We used to go to where our office was going to be and would go there and look and would see. And my wife would say, the desks are going to be here, the chairs are going to be there. We were so excited about it. And then one time, we then just forgot, it started fading and fading. But we wanted to do it because we knew we were going to help small businesses. One time my wife then had a dream, And in this dream, me and her were standing outside that building, and someone had taken the idea. And that, it was thriving, and we were so sad, thinking, oh, no, we could have done this. We could have helped small business. But the small business had found help, but it was someone else. I remember my wife woke me up around 2 and says, listen, this is what I've dreamt. And I said to myself, we must do this. So I woke up the next day, I went to our future landlord. At the time, Ridwan Dada is a very great landlord to us. And I said to him, listen, give us the keys. We want to start. We are going to do this. And he said, no, just give me security deposit. And we said, but don't have money. He says, no, okay, give me security deposit for 1 month. Then I'll know that you're serious. But don't talk to me again.
Yeah.
Just give me security deposit for 1 month, then we'll do it.
And he signed the lease.
No, he says we'll sign the lease after.
After, yes.
But everything was ready. He gave us the terms and conditions. And so we then thought, okay, let's sell our business because we want to do this. Let's sell the other business. We went, and I then met a lady who says, I want to buy your business. It was a big QI accredited training company.
Yes.
And she, on the spot, gave us an advance. And we took that money, gave it to our landlord. We signed the lease. Now we have the lease. Then we went around and said to other people, hey, you guys want to invest? So we kept some shares for ourselves and then opened up for investors. And, we started. It was an act of faith. It was genuinely an act of faith. just that we wanted to help people. We wanted to help small businesses and to make their lives better. And it bore fruit.
Wow, that's wonderful. As we near the end of our time together, sir, you say the market doesn't belong to anyone.
Yes.
Why is it important to recognize that there's no ownership of the market?
Well, this is what made me quit my job. I used to work as a management consultant for a company called Must, and I listened to a tape by Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn said,
one of my favorite
he's an amazing gentleman. Yeah.
favorite motivational speakers.
Yes. And so he says, you don't get paid for the time you spend in the office or for anything. You get paid for the value that you bring to the marketplace. That point hit me hard. And I thought, and he said, in his explanation, if you're going to be paid for the amount of time you spend in the office, security guards should be the highest paid. If you're going to be paid for the effort you put in and the sweat you bring out,
Laborers will be there.
the laborers will be the highest paid. But you see, you get paid for the value that you bring, for helping other people, for solving their problems. And a good example of that is Choppies. Mr. Ramachandran, wherever he is, I think he's a good gentleman. He's a good businessman.
Yeah, I've interviewed him. Very soon we'll have him on the Nuggets.
Wow, that's amazing. He said, you think about, he has gone to South Africa, gotten oranges, put them in near your house. He's collected tissues near your house. Now you don't have to go to South Africa to buy oranges. And you don't have to go to Mkhodisane or Zimbabwe to buy your tissues. You just go to the Choppies near you. He has solved your problem.
Yes.
He's helping us. That's what business is about. And so the market is for everyone. If I can provide the market with something that's better than Ramachandran, if I can provide a solution that's better than his, the market will come to me.
Or even something comparable.
Yes, or comparable, yes. So, there are no victims in entrepreneurship. The market is waiting for us. I can challenge F&B. F&B, the only person who can't be challenged in business is God. But otherwise, I can come with something that's better than F&B. I can come with something that's better than Letseho. And we can defeat them. So to anyone who wants to do business, the market is waiting for you.
You remind me of the father of capitalism. What is his name? Something Smith?
Adam Smith.
Yeah.
Yes.
He talks more or less along those lines. All right. Listen, as we conclude our time together, Tinashe, I really want you to look at the camera, that one.
Yes.
And motivate the entrepreneur. How do we survive those 1,000 days? Just tell them a few tidbits, a few words of motivation, something that you can take home and be prepared to face the storms of entrepreneurship and survive the 1,000 days.
Yes. I want to say to you, dear watcher, dear viewer at home, that there is nothing more fulfilling than entrepreneurship. And I want to also acknowledge that there are some who cannot be entrepreneurs. Not all of us can be entrepreneurs. But for you who wants to do business, for you who wants to provide solutions to the country of Botswana and to the world, the world is waiting for you. I do business because one day my daughter's going to say to me, why are we in schools like this? Why didn't you do anything when you had the chance? Why are you complaining about the hospitals right now when you could have started hospitals? Why are you complaining now about this and that? Entrepreneurs can solve all those problems. And so God there solve those problems. The world is waiting for you. Botswana is waiting for you. And I believe that the future is bright for you if you don't give up and if you mean well for the people of Botswana to help them and to make their lives better.
Wonderful. Now, how do people who are moved and motivated by your sharing get in touch with you? And how do people take advantage of your services? Where are your contact details and so on?
Yes. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Tinashe Mupedziwa.
I think that's where we met originally.
Indeed. Yes. You can find me on LinkedIn. My cell phone number is 777-129-76. Let's talk business, and let's grow our business and let's serve the people that God died for.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You've been a wonderful guest, sir. We thank you so much for your sharing. I acknowledge you. I recognize you. I take my hat off for you, sir. You're making a difference and keep impacting others the way you're doing.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you.